Good morning, Kenya. Rise and shine to the morning momentum. Your daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. Congratulations, you made it to a new month. It's the first day of April 2025. And this morning, let's take a look at the top stories making the headlines on the papers. We're waking up to Ruto'S bombshell on the Daily Nation. The president vows to prove naysayers wrong by showing his government has fulfilled its promises. President William Ruto has for the first time revealed the behind-the-scenes intrigues that led to the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua as deputy president, claiming his former principal assistant demanded to be paid 10 billion shillings even as he picked insult to the MP. He never helped him to defend the government, and that he quarreled blogger Dennis Itumbi, his personal assistant Farouk Kibet, and other MPs from the Mount Kenya region. The president further proceeds to say the former deputy president demanded that all Mount Kenya MPs should kneel before him or else they would lose their seats. He stopped two other plans to oust him. That is what he says. In his address yesterday with Mount Kenya television stations, he also said that Gachagua asked for 10 billion shillings, threatening that he would make him a one-term president, and he refused to be blackmailed. He also said that the former Attorney General and former Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi said he was not competent to do the job. You want to catch up with all that on page 6 and page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. On page 2 and page 3, clerics caution against pay rise for MPs. Now, a section of Muslims has cautioned the Salaries and Remuneration Commission (SRC) and the Parliamentary Service Commission (PSC) against increasing the salaries of members of parliament at a time when a majority Kenyans are struggling with a high cost of living. Speaking yesterday during the Eid al-Fitr celebrations in Eldoret, the Muslim clerics threatened to join forces with the youth to hold nationwide demonstrations. That is beefed up for you on page 2 and page 3 of the Daily Nation this morning. On page 8, day I almost gave up on my son, a mother's darkest hour before dawn. And on page 12, a dead Kitengela man, Embakasi ranching and North Koreans feud over 2.5 billion shillings land. We'll take a look at that. Let's get up close and candid with the Nation on page 2. Halt MPs pay rise or rejoin Gen Z protests, Muslim preachers warn. Now, following public outcry, Senators Methu, Sifuna and Onyonka have distanced themselves from the salary increase and they want the cash given to needy learners. Council of Imams and Preachers say the Salaries and Remuneration Commission is not being considerate since most Kenyans are going through economic hardships. That story is beefed up for you on page 2 and page 3. Also on page 3, Endowment Fund Advisory Council tells President to disband the selection panel for WAQF Commission. Now, the Kenya Muslims National Advisory Council, KEMNAC, has urged President William Ruto to disband the 5-member selection panel appointed to nominate candidates for the Muslim Endowment Fund Commission. KEMNAC chairman Sheikh Juma Ngao yesterday criticized the panel, which Attorney General Dorcas Oduor appointed, saying it is unsuitable for the task. That story is beefed up for you on page 3. Let's take a look at page 4. Solicitor General CA boss defend Mary Wambui over 5 billion shillings tender. Is it a conflict of interest? Ms. Wambui's daughter was the firm's director during the procurement process. Officials say Ms. Wambui resigned from the Nightingale Enterprises before the tender was awarded. Now, the Communication Authority, CA, and Solicitor General Shadrach Mose have defended businesswoman Mary Wambui over allegations of conflict of interest in a 5 billion government contract awarded to a company associated with her. In documents filed in court in response to a petition for the removal of Ms. Wambui from the position of CA chairperson, both Mose and CA Managing Director David Mugonyi say the allegations are unfounded. They add that no information has been provided to the effect that Ms. Wambui influenced award of the contract to Nightingale Enterprises Limited. You want to catch up with more of those insights on page 4. On page 5 this morning, ghost cars guzzled 12.5 million shillings of fuel expenditure flagged by Auditor General in a report for the 2022-2023 financial year. Higher Education and Research Department is grappling with myriad financial challenges despite this misuse. Now, the State Department of Higher Education and Research is on the spot for 12.5 million shillings expenditure on fuel, whose records neither indicate the vehicles that consumed it nor the drivers responsible, sparking fears of fraud. The questionable expenditure has been flagged by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu in a report on the accounts of the State Department for the 2022-2023 financial year under consideration by the Public Accounts Committee PSC of the National Assembly. That story is beefed up for you on page 5. Let's take a look at page 6. Ruto'S bombshell as he begins tour of hostile Mount Kenya, and kept promises among region's grievances. Now, the president hits back at former Deputy President Gachagua, who has been criticizing him since he was impeached last year. President William Ruto last night revealed behind-the-scenes intrigues that led to the impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, claiming his former deputy demanded to be paid 10 billion shillings as he picked incessant quarrels with MPs and government officials that made it difficult to work with him. In an interview with vernacular stations ahead of his 5-day tour of the Mount Kenya region, President Ruto claimed that he saved Mr. Gachagua from impeachment 2 times before he gave up and allowed MPs to proceed with his removal from office. You want to catch up with that story on page 6. On page 7 this morning, 12 new parties in a month signal crowded races. In March alone, 7 new political parties have been issued with provisional registration, while other 5 were in the process of being registered. The Office of the Registrar of Political Parties in a notice revealed that it provisionally registered People's Forum for Rebuilding Democracy, PFRD, Imarisha Uchumi Party, African Development Congress, and Kenya Ahadi Party in March. So, in numbers, 90 is the number of fully registered political parties in the country, according to the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. 48 is the number of political parties actively participated in the 2022 general elections. Let's move on and take a look at page 8. The day I almost gave up on my son Steve-O, a mother's darkest hour before dawn. Now, Munyaho was convicted of murder after the family of his colleague appealed against an initial manslaughter charge. The Muslim World League paid 129 million shillings blood money, and Stephen's return process has started in Saudi Arabia, where he was jailed. Now, going by the dwindling blood money contributions to save Stephen Munyaho, the Kenyan on the death row in Saudi Arabia, his family was certain that his return to Kenya was, in his mother's words, mission impossible. Now, I quote her, "By March, just a few weeks ago, I was in a panic mode," said Dorothy Kweyu. The trend started well, then it completely went down. We were getting as little as 100 shillings per day. Thanks to one Miss Florence Awimbo, who since the start of collection sent 100 shillings every single day. I have never met her physically, but her generosity made me call her because we could access her phone number. Let's move on and take a look at page 10. Learners break for April holiday as eventful term 1 draws to a close. Now, law enforcement agencies told to take action against parents forcing their children to engage in crime. Parents Association urges guardians to take care of their children and stop them from getting involved in crime. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. So these are the warnings. Parents cautioned against marrying off their girls or sending them to the countryside. Oh, try it. Let's give it a minute. Apologies for that. Let's continue. These are the warnings that the parents have been given. So parents have been cautioned against marrying off their girls or sending them to the countryside to undergo female genital mutilation. Association warns of the reemergence of juvenile criminal gangs wreaking havoc at the coast. That story is beefed up for you on page 10 of The Nation this morning. Let's move on and take a look at page 12. Dead Kitengela man, Embakasi ranching and North Koreans feud over 2.5 billion shillings land. The court to deliver judgment on the rightful owner of the land using the files and testimonies lodged before it. Dispute pits a dead man's family against a ranching company and foreigners who separately claimed ownership of suit parcels. That story is briefed up for you on page 12. On page 13 this morning, J. Quat owned farm loses millions through dead venture and wastage. Now, audit found that the farm's industrial parks staff member was higher than the approved establishment. Reports show university's enterprise company is technically insolvent as its liabilities exceeded its assets. So the query, unlisted board member paid allowances. The financial statements under the board of directors of JQuat Enterprises Limited show the directors who served during the year under review. However, examination of board expenses records revealed a member not included in the list of board members who was included in the payment of board allowances. Similarly, his appointment records were not provided for audit. That story is beefed up for you on page 13. Now we shift gears and take a quick look at the expert opinion. This morning, YKDF boss Kahariri is wrong on Ruto must go. It wouldn't be unconstitutional if people choose to sustain protests resulting in the resignation of the president. You want to catch up with those insights on page 14. Also, billions for MPs, pennies for the public servants. Now, public funds must be allocated toward initiatives that directly improve the lives of citizens. That story is beefed up for you on page 14. Let's move on and take a look at county news. We start with Nairobi County. Sakaja unleashes recruits on hawkers and border borders. Now, committee told that recruits did not graduate last year for lack of money. Traders say it is difficult to differentiate them from goons since they lack uniform. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja is on the spot for releasing hundreds of inspectorate recruits to the streets before their planned graduation. This is after it emerged that the recruits who are not in uniform have been harassing traders and motorists caught breaking city bylaws. The County Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee Chairman Jared Akama said that they have received complaints from traders. In Nakuru County, Masai Mara University to pay suspended driver 2.5 million shillings. The Employment and Labor Relations Court in Nakuru has ordered Masai Mara University to pay 2.5 million shillings in salary arrears to a suspended driver caught up in 177 million shillings corruption scandal. Senior driver Hassan Abdi Nur was charged alongside Vice Chancellor Mary Walingo and 4 other senior officers in 2020 over allegations of misappropriating 177 million shillings. Others charged were Professor Walingo's deputy in charge of administration, Solomon Kasaine Oleseno, Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Finance and Planning, John Almadi Obere, and former Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and Student Affairs, Anaklet Biket Okumu. All right, let's take a look at Nairobi briefly again. Major showdown looms over plan to evict traders. Now, adamant Juakali traders who are opposed to a county government plan to move them from an illegal dump site along Likoni Road have planned to stage protests. Last Friday, the protesters barricaded the road, lit bonfires, and pelted the police with stones. In Machakos County, Ndeti steps up bid to improve on-source revenue. Governor Wavinya Ndeti launched the draft county valuation roll aimed at driving up on-source revenue. The event was held at the Machakos Internal Conference Center. The governor asserted her government's resolve to deploy innovative mechanisms in growing the country's revenues. That story is beefed up for you on page 17. Let's move on and take a look at more stories here on the DN2 article this morning. Powering SMEs, my business satisfies the sweet tooth. One of her most memorable creations was a cake worth over 300,000 shillings, a milestone that enabled her to invest in a major piece of equipment for her bakery, significantly increasing production capacity. This is the story of a Journey House founder, Adelaide Njeri, and she does the business of baking. Let's move on and take a look at other stories here on the Daily Nation, and that takes us to business news. Let's see what we have here in the world of business this morning. Okay. Right, let's take a look at sports news. Let's start with golf. Legirma takes lead in Sunshine Tour qualifier. Now, the national team's keeper carded a solid 3 under par 68. He currently tops the 2025 Kenya Amateur Golf Championship Series with 204 points after 5 legs. Let's take a look at cricket. Kenya under-19 brace for Nigeria test in 2026 World Cup qualifiers. The Kenyan camp in Lagos is buzzing with confidence following the team's strong start to the 2026 International Cricket Council ICC under-19 Men's World Cup Africa Division 1 qualifiers. That story is beefed up for you on page 37. On page 38, no elections for athletes representatives during no polls. Now, Kenyan Olympic body adopts a negotiated democracy to fill the 2 positions. AK will nominate the male representative, while 5 federations will select the female candidate for the post. That story is beefed up for you on page 38. On page 39 this morning, Mashemeji Derby, AFC Leopards rake in 7.3 million shillings. Ingwe hosted the 96th meeting between the 2 arch rivals. Massive crowd also spilled into the media tribunal, forcing some scenes to stand. The 96th Mashemeji Derby between AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia at Nyayo National Stadium on Sunday witnessed one of the largest crowds in recent history. The highly anticipated clash generated over 7.3 million shillings in gate revenue, according to AFC Leopards patron Alex Muteshi. In the women's football, confident Kibera Soccer stay on course for title. With their eyes firmly set on the Football Kenya Federation Women's Premier League 2024-2025 title, Kibera Soccer women are approaching their last 4 matches with the mindset of a final, according to the head coach David Vijego. Kibera currently lead the league standings with 38 points from 18 matches, 11 wins, 5 draws and 2 losses, despite being held a 1-1 draw by 4-time champions Vihiga Queens on Sunday at Moi Stadium in Kisumu. On the cover page of the Daily Nation this morning, state replenishes cheap fertilizer to end shortages. Farmers across the country are planting after rainy season started. The PS says that ministry had planned in advance, but demand had outstripped supply. The government has started distributing subsidized fertilizer to address a biting shortage as farmers rush against time to plant after the onset of long rains. Agriculture CS Mutahi Kagwe yesterday said hundreds of trucks had started delivering fertilizer to National Cereals and Produce Board depots across the country to meet high demand. You want to catch up with that on the cover page of the Daily Nation this morning. Now, with that story of agricultural sector, the cheap fertilizer or the subsidized fertilizers being delivered across the NCPB depots across the country, we come to the tail end of the morning momentum this first day of April. We thank you for choosing to keep us company and for choosing to watch the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. The program on air has been the morning momentum. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes to all those who made this broadcast a success, the Chief Controller Peninah Wachera, and behind the lens this morning has been Raphael Wangila. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, do have a beautiful day ahead of you. My name is Alphonce Ouma.